Talk radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Monday, February 18th, 2019. 49 days into the new year, just 316 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south. Far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, tonight, very special guest kicking off the week tonight. Yes, I see that, Richard. Thank you. Richard just texted me. Wow, that's very nice. Thank you, Richard. Richard Dolan is here, kicking off the week. We are going to do a full night of ET and UFO conversation. All the breaking news in our community. Lots to discuss. So Richard will be with us at the bottom of the hour. Tomorrow night, David Icke is here. Man, he has been working his way over to Australia via London. Left Mexico today, arrived in Los Angeles. That's right. I was speaking in Mexico, doing some stuff down there. Now he's here in L.A., and then he's on his way to Melbourne. Heading over to Australia. He's got a bunch of stuff. Then he's coming back to Los Angeles because he's premiering his new movie. Yeah, in case you didn't know it, there's a movie out now. All right, so that's what's going on with David Icke. That'll be tomorrow. And then Wednesday night, you guys asked for it. You got it. It's the Q Army with In the Matrix and Shady Groove. Looking forward to this. And that will be Wednesday night. And then Thursday is our 1,000th show. Our 1,000th show. And that is Thursday night. And it's on a fader night with open lines all night long. Unbelievable. We made it. 1,000 shows. And I remember, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We'll do all of that stuff on Thursday. But I remember, I guess we did sort of briefly back in the day. Okay, today's our 50th show. Okay, today's our 100th show. I guess we did. I think I said I was going to stop after 500, and I did. But 1,000. And this is what's trippy. So today, as you know, I'm thinking about this and doing the post out and speaking about it. Remember, we do currently, and for the last few years, 16 shows a month. That's it. 16 shows a month, 4 shows a week, 16 shows a month. How do you get to 1,000? How do you get to 1,000 at 16 shows a month? Well, it's pretty obvious. It's a marathon. It ain't a race. It is just the tortoise and the hare, right? 16 shows a month. Eventually, you get there. Wow, and we have. So, River Moon Coffee. Oh man. All right. I don't know. We did. There are days that I do feel like it's been that long. Yeah, there are those days. All right. You know what to do. Go follow all of our social media. Head over to jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow us on Twitter at jchurchradio, at jchurchradio, and come and join the conversation. Hashtag F2BQ. Glenn says Melbourne is pronounced Melbourne. Is that right? Melbourne? All right. I you know what? Lesson learned. And I really appreciate that. Melbourne. Okay. Melbourne. I want to thank everybody, and more are coming in. I want to thank everybody for the Fade to Black t-shirt pics. Keep them coming. You can send them directly to my email if you want. If you don't want them up there on Twitter or Facebook, whatever. And send it to Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Getting that new Fade or Not page ready. And we're getting close to launching that. So thank you. And where am I? Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Hashtag F2BQ. I say that because as I'm sitting here, two more emails came in with a t-shirt pics in it. Thank you for that. Very, very, very cool. Email is Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get to the breaking news. You know I love my music. This is a fact. I love my music. And tonight, I would like to welcome our newest sponsor here at Fade to Black, Surfer. That's Surfr. Surfer. It's a new streaming music app that's totally free, 100%, all of it. All you got to do is download it and start listening to music. It's really that simple. It's very, very cool. And everything is there. Everything that you want to listen to, rock, jazz, adult, contemporary, whatever it is, all the categories are there, dozens of them, and you're going to see updates and more added as time moves along. But it is just really cool. So all you have to do is click on the Surfer banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. That'll take you to their landing page where it just says Google or Apple. Your choice. Click, download it, start listening. It's that simple. It's that simple. It is really, really cool. Okay, so we've got it up on Facebook. We have it up in Twitter. We have it up on the website, surfer.fm. surfr.fm is the website if you just want to go straight there. Or you can just go to the Apple App Store and Google Play and just search for Surfer Music, and right there, SURFR. Okay? Surfer. It is absolutely amazing, and I got to tell you, I've had it for about a month, and it's my app of choice. You just open it. It is so cool because the way that it works, I won't be able to play. If I play it now live on the air, but there it is, right there. See? Surfer. It's right there on my phone. And you just click it and open it, but then, of course, I'll have some kind of crazy copyright dispute because I've played somebody's music on this show, so I can't do it. But it's really that simple. surfr.fm or click on the banners at jimmychurchradio.com. Well, last week, a week and a half ago, the Opportunity rover died. It's over. And now that it's gone, what is still running up there? And there are a few things functional that make it still possible to study the red planet. And the Curiosity, Opportunity's gone, but the Curiosity is running. And it can support the study of small life forms, microbes, analyzing samples scooped up from the Martian dirt. They can also drill into rocks. Curiosity has an onboard laboratory that can actually determine chemical building blocks and with the secrecy of the life on Mars. And there is also the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter right now, and it continues to function. The orbiter was also launched back in 2005, and as it orbits Mars, it's used to search for evidence of water down on the surface. So all hope is not lost. I know it seems kind of weird that, but when are we going to Mars? When are we going to Mars? I just finished the series, by the way, Mars, which is absolutely incredible. And in a weird way, when you watch all of the seasons and you put it together, they made it so realistic. It's like a soap opera. They've made it so realistic that it just makes you wonder if that's exactly how it's not going to play out. Yeah, the whole water aspect of it, I can't say anything. The whole water aspect of it is a big player in the series. All right, let's move on here. Now, this weekend is the Conscious Life Expo right here in Los Angeles at the LAX Hilton. It's February 22nd through the 25th. This year, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Chariots of the Gods with Eric Von Daniken. And I'll be hosting the panel with Eric. That'll be Friday night. And on that panel is Linda Moulton Howe, Jason Martell, Billy Carson, and Rabbi Ariel Bar Zadok. That is Friday night. Saturday, all kinds of fun stuff going on all day long. George has got his meet and greet party that he's doing and his award ceremony. He's got his panel with questions, and that's the whole thing that they are doing there. So come and hang out with us, okay? We've got a great booth on the mezzanine level where we were last year. Okay, and we will be representing some of our sponsors here, of course, like River Moon Coffee. Okay, so come and hang out with us. It's going to be a great, great weekend. And, Thursday night, we're celebrating our 1,000th show, right? And then we just go straight into the weekend. Come and hang out with us. All right? Tickets and info, ConsciousLifeExpo.com. Full conference schedule is right there. You can click on the CLE banner over at jimmychurchradio.com or just go straight to Conscious Life Expo. Our next event is Contact in the Desert, May 31st through June 3rd in Indian Wells, Palm Springs, California at the Renaissance Indian Wells Resort and Spa. Tickets and info, contactinthedesert.com. And then coming up is our 2019 Soul Tech Conference. It's over the July 4th weekend at the Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. Sign up for tickets and info at soultechgathering.com. Okay. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. It is just $2 per month. And after this week, I'll be saying we have over 1,000 shows. Where did I get the Sasquatch t-shirt? You guys notice that? It says at the bottom, Hide and Seek World Champion. And it's that was sent in from a Fadernaut, and his sons sent that to me, asked me for my shirt size, and I think they had it made. I don't know. I don't know, but it was sent in to me from a Fadernaut, who's probably listening now. I got this last year, but that's where I got it. I wish I could tell you that there are more. I cannot. Yeah, but I'll be saying 1,000 shows here pretty soon with our podcast. Also, you can become a Fade or Not in our membership section on jimmychurchradio.com. I just got news. For some reason, one of our links are broken to Numana, and thank you. A couple of listeners emailed us and let us know. We've just contacted them, and we'll get that fixed. We don't know what's going on. Happy birthday to today. Man, I can't stop drinking this River Moon coffee. Yeah, I cannot stop drinking it. There's a flavor. There's a thing. It's so good. I drink it every day. It's just amazing. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today. John Travolta is 65. Matt Dillon today is 55. Molly Ringwald today is 51. Dr. Dre today is 54. And last but not least, Yoko Ono. Yoko Ono today is 86. 86. Is Yoko a billionaire? How did they divide that, with the money? And yeah, I wonder if Yoko's a billionaire. Our dead guy's birthday today is Enzo Ferrari. 1898 to 1988, died at the age of 90. And pretty much I'm going to say this, that the only the designer, builder, and visionary that created the best car on the planet. That's who he is. Period. The 1958, any Ferrari, by the way, but and you can pretty much say that. The 1958 Testarossa 250 TR may be the most perfect thing ever in the history of everything. The most perfect, pleasing thing ever designed. Happens to be a car. Happens to be a pretty cool 12-cylinder car, too, as well. Happy birthday, Enzo Ferrari. On this day in history, OTD 1930, Pluto. The on-again, off-again planet is discovered at the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona by astronomer Clyde W. Tombaugh. On this day in 1930. Fader fact. In 1994, 17-year-old David Hahn built a nuclear reactor in his mother's backyard, and he irradiated his house and the entire neighborhood, took everybody down with him. He wrote letters posing as a high school physics teacher, calling himself Professor Hahn, and tricked various nuclear agency officials to provide him with vital information related to nuclear reactors. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight, very special guest Richard Dolan is here. Full night of ET and UFO conversation dead ahead. Tomorrow, it is David Icke. Wednesday night, the Q Army. We're going to have In the Matrix and Shady Groove here with us. Thursday is our 1,000th show, and it's on a Fader night, no less. And so we're going to have open lines all night long. A few special guests are going to stop by and hang out. And it's just a celebration for all of you. All right, a very, very special thanks. Okay, and that will be Thursday night. So that's our week. And then Thursday night, I guess, we head down to the LAX Hilton, and we will be there all weekend. All right, now, why do I drink River Moon coffee, take a sip so loudly at this point of the show when I start my rant? Because my brain knows the happiness that the rant is going to give me, giving to you. And it starts with that. And just all of those wonderful chemicals kick off in my head. And the only way to make myself fully happy, fully engaged, and I know what's about to happen here. I know what's about to happen here. You know what's about to happen, right? So there you go. So why do some of us just believe just about anything? You ever ask yourself that? Today, I watched a documentary on flat earthers featuring Mark Sargent. Mark was on this show a couple of years ago. Pretty popular show. A couple of years ago. And Mark's a good guy. I think he comes across pretty cool in this documentary. And although it's promoting the flat earth movement, that's its intention, it points out a few glaring things. And when you watch the documentary, it gets really, really interesting. And one of the things that they point out, which is the flaw of the flat earthers, is that if you believe in one conspiracy, you must believe them all. And Mark said at the beginning of this, he said, well, I didn't, and his mom is there, that, he didn't believe in every conspiracy and he didn't want to jump, but he was studying some of the, and this and that and this. And he gets to flat earth and didn't want to go there, but you know what? He's a truther and he's a believer, so he went right there and ended up, and that's one of the things that bothers me about this community, because I have actually gotten email that says exactly that. Church, you're either all in or you're not. Either you are with this or you are not. And that goes down the line, because I've made my comments and stood my ground on certain things, like 9/11 or Sandy Hook or mass shootings or there's plenty of things out there that I just back up and go, no. There are enough conspiracies out there that we need to be concerned about, right? And one of those things, because I didn't jump on the flat earth bandwagon, look, or what little bandwagon that they had, it's actually very, very simple. For those out there, and with this show, most thought that flat earth, right? Earth, lost history, flat earth, space, right? The big lie going back centuries and all of this, that's the perfect thing for me to go all in on. And if there was one thing, just one thing that the flat earthers could prove, out and out prove, then, you could, but there isn't even one thing. It's not about, you can see a city off in the distance. Look, it's there. It's supposed to be on the other. Stop. Just stop. It's not scientific. It's nothing. Okay, that's nothing. But anyway, not to dwell on this. But then there is the truther movement, and how they in this documentary start to talk about the truther movement. And there was a couple of moments where, I think they had a psychiatrist on from UCLA or something, where they said, look, the truther movement, and this is where I get angry, and it's the flat earthers' fault, and in some cases the truther movement's fault, is that you take somebody that's already on the fringe of society, right, and then you just force them to go all in on something like flat earth or something else, and the next thing you know, they're out. They lose their friends and their family and everything else for the belief in what, and what is it that you gain in convincing somebody about flat earth when everybody knows in the flat earth community that the earth isn't flat? Everybody knows. Every flat earther knows that the earth is not flat. The reason why the flat earthers and the dedicated ones, and that includes Mark Sargent, anybody else out there that talk about it, is all they are trying to do is debate. That's it. And you know how it is when you debate. Okay, you've got this side, you've got this side. You flip a coin, okay, boom, okay, you got this subject, and you see who wins. And that's all that's going on here with the flat Earth, because we all know that it's round, right? But Mark also says in the film that the flat earthers have blown past scientists. They've proven everybody in government and, well, anything that ever was. Literally, I think this is how he says it, and that the movement is huge. And then they go around and they show the meetups, and they have this room for this meetup. It's like 10 people sitting there with 50 empty chairs. And then they have their flat earth conference. Again, I'm not complaining here. What I'm saying is, if you are going to certain things, because the conference was small, it was tiny. If you're going to talk about the big flat earth conference and we're all going to go, and that's the end of the film and that's the climax, if that's what you're going to do and you're going to put that in this documentary, you need to make sure that there are thousands and thousands of people there, this groundswell of a movement, not dozens of people. And there's a big difference there. You know, and showing the empty meetups, and then it kind of takes the air out of everything else that is stated in this video. You know, and I just, I don't understand how somebody gets bought into the belief of flat Earth. And this is, okay, all right. I'm trying to be kind here. I don't think that the flat earthers themselves believe that the earth is flat. But when you turn around and you pick on somebody that is on the fringe, and they are sitting here in this documentary talking about, I've lost my family, I lost my wife, I lost my job, my kids won't speak to me, I don't have any friends anymore, over flat earth, you know, and there needs to be a little bit of responsibility there, I would think. Right? That's a dangerous zone. It's another thing to discuss the UFO topic when we see strange things going on in the sky. Right? That's different, and that's a tangible difference. You know, where science is trying to make contact, and we have fast radio bursts, and I was just talking about curiosity and trying to figure out what's going on Mars. That's what we are doing now. We are searching for this and going for these answers. With the flat earthers, people, men, women, have died and sacrificed their lives for heresy and other things, gone to prison, burned at the stake, heads chopped off, to prove these things, and did so successfully, that the earth is round. It's really a strange thing. All right. Why do people do it? So go and check out the documentary. I think it's called, I could be wrong, Under the Curve. I think that might be it. Under the Curve. Just look up, just Google search that and you'll find it. Tonight, it's Richard Bleepin' Dolan. He is here, and I am happy. Okay, I'm going to be right back after this short break with Richard Dolan. And tomorrow it is David Icke. Wednesday, it is the Q Army with In the Matrix and Shady Groove. And then, of course, Thursday is our 1000th show. And I'll be right back after this short break with our guest, Richard Dolan. Stay with me.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Richard Dolan is here. That's right. Tomorrow is David Icke. Yeah, David Icke tomorrow. And then Wednesday night, it is the Q Army with In the Matrix and Shady Groove. That's right. We're going to get our Q on Wednesday night. Thursday is our 1,000th show. Big celebration going down Thursday night. And, of course, it's Fader night. We'll have a few special guests rolling on through. I don't have to worry about this next gentleman, Richard Dolan, because he's on with us tonight. But that'll be Thursday night. Then, of course, this weekend we are down at the Conscious Life Expo. Richard Dolan is one of the world's leading researchers and writers on the subject of UFOs and believes that they constitute the greatest mystery of our time. Richard completed his graduate work at the University of Rochester, where he studied the U.S. Cold War strategy, European history, and international diplomacy. But before that, he had studied at Alfred University and Oxford University and had been a finalist for a Rhodes Scholarship. He is the author of UFOs and the National Security State. He co-authored that with Bryce Zabel, AD After Disclosure. And his latest book is UFOs and the 21st Century Mind. Of course, he is a radio show host as well with the Richard Dolan Show right here on KGRA. Frequent guest with me over on Coast to Coast AM. He was just on with George a couple of nights ago, and he's currently featured on several television series and documentaries, including Ancient Aliens. In addition to his research, Richard's company, Richard Dolan Press, actively publishes innovative books by authors from around the world. Tonight, we are going to discuss everything ET and UFO that is currently breaking news for our community. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Richard, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Jimmy. Good to be on here tonight.
Yes, it is good to be on here tonight. And, okay, Richard, for this conversation to proceed, you must answer 3 questions. Okay?
I thought there was going to be one question.
No,
you're giving me 3?
I'm giving you 3.
Was I not informed?
Exactly. I got to catch you off guard. Okay. First question. What is your name?
My full name. My name is Richard.
Your name is correct. Okay.
Yes.
Next,
I got that one.
Next question.
I knew I could get that one.
What is your favorite? What is your favorite color?
Jimmy, I'm 56 years old. We don't have favorite colors at this age. This is not a thing.
Third question.
Yes.
We had agreed on a subject for tonight's show, and today you changed your mind. Why?
We were going to talk about a controversial subject in our field. UFO always has controversial subjects. There's always drama. And in this case, there's, as many people know, a bit of very sordid drama that has enveloped this field, indirectly affected myself, I suppose, but I don't really consider myself at the center of this. And, I chatted with you over the last week or so about some of these developments. I know you've talked about it indirectly. You've been pretty vague about it, if I may say. And I wondered how much we wanted to get into this, and I really thought it would be a thing to do. And here's what I feel. It's such a bad, low, seedy, awful thing. And I don't want to throw myself into it. It could very well be the case that in the future this is something you and I discuss. But I would just say, look, if people are really interested in finding out what the latest scandal is developing, go to there's a number of sites out there, places. I would say the Project Avalon website is probably the best for up-to-date analysis on some of the things that are going on in this field. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I am talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, go to Avalon and you'll find out.
Avalon,
what I would say. For right now, I want to leave it at that.
Yeah, all of you know what I appreciate Avalon about. It's my biggest support group. Those guys over there and gals, they just love this show, and so everybody should.
They've been around for a long time, and I will just say they have for years and years had many of the most intelligent, insightful, goodwill analysts that are out there, and people who I think genuinely care about the integrity of UFOs and everything related to the research in that field. So, and they're on top of a lot of this, and I support what they do. So for right now, rather than honestly, because one of the things that I have tried, I haven't always succeeded, but I have tried to do in my years involved in the public realm is to avoid whether they were, the old-fashioned flame wars from the early internet or any of the other kinds of fights that are going on. Because the thing is, they're very seductive at first when you want to get involved and sling it out with somebody. But it's a waste of time. And it's almost always demeaning to anyone who gets involved in it. So until it becomes a necessary thing for me to speak about this, I think I've really thought about this a lot. And I've decided, at least for now, I don't want to make a major statement about it. I'd rather just let things play out and see where it happens. There are more than enough people right now digging, researching, exposing. And there is no question, from the little that I know, that there is much more that will be revealed. And my attitude is let it all come out.
That's it.
All of it.
Okay. All right. Well said, Richard. You know, I remember this goes back many years with you and I, but when I started to introduce you at different conferences, and I would always say that one of the things, I said it once, and then I ended up saying it every time I've introduced you, that you represent this community in such an honest, pragmatic way that we should all be proud in this crazy community of ours that we've got somebody like you standing out in front of all of us. And what you just said right there is about as well spoken as it can be. So I thank you for that, and let's move on.
All right. Yeah, let's move on. If we need to, we'll come back to it.
Yeah. There you go. Now, there's so much to discuss tonight. And
now we had nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, you know what? Moving on. Thank you for being here tonight, Richard, and give my best to Tracy.
I will. She's sitting right here.
Hey, Tracy. The truther movement, right? The conspiracy movement out there. In my little opening rant tonight, one of the things
I missed.
Oh, you missed it. Okay. Well, in a nutshell, it's this. It seems that if you are going to be part of the truther movement or you're going to be part of the conspiracy movement and you are either all in or not, that you are not entitled to not believe in every single conspiracy that comes down the pike. And if you dare not, just jump on every single thing that comes down the road and every single breaking news and everything is a false flag and everything is this and everything.
Right.
If you don't, you're like banished, right? And you get criticized for it. And I don't get it. And one of the problems that I have with that is that we're already dealing with some pretty fantastical subjects that we're trying to get the rest of the world to open up their eyes to. And then you bring in some of this other stuff, and I think it's proper to put your foot down and go, no.
Well, I agree with this. What we don't need, what we absolutely never need, are zealots in this field. All right. So it's actually the worst thing for us because, as you just were saying, the things that we are studying are on the fringe, both politically and scientifically, and psychologically, for that matter. These are not ordinary things that we're looking into. The UFO subject and everything connected with it, the presence of other intelligences, intelligent beings that are not from our civilization, that's as out there as it gets. And so what it requires is not the mindset of a zealot, not the mindset of someone who is, ready to banish or shun or gang stalk or intimidate those they disagree with. That's the last thing we need. What we require is actually calm ability to look at all different possibilities and withhold judgments for as long as we can, because this is a complicated subject. It's not simple. So I fear zealots, and I think that the imposition and any people who come into this field and act as though they've got every single thing figured out, like those are the most dangerous people because they don't have it all figured out. None of us do.
Yeah. And I'm going, I'm not necessarily going in that direction, but although I agree with you, of course, but I'm referring to more direct things like that if Sandy Hook or 9/11 or the Apollo moon missions or the hoax or two black budget programs, to the Kennedy assassination, and you can just a long list of things that to be a member of this community you have to put a check mark by all of them, and I don't. Why is it that some people literally believe in every single conspiracy that comes along? Like flat Earth. I'll throw flat Earth in there there's another perfect example.
Yeah, in my office, in our room here, we've got a Mercator projection of the Earth. That's what it's called, Mercator projection. And it's artistically done. And when I do a live stream, people can see it behind me and Tracy. And I will tell you, there's always people who say, "Oh, Dolan must believe in the flat Earth. There's a flat Earth projection behind it." They're out there. I guess what I would say to answer your question is that it's very easy. Like once you realize that one very, very big thing that you grew up believing in is untrue or a lie, like UFOs don't exist, and then you realize, oh wow, they actually do exist, or you get into the truth of other types of conspiratorial events, which there are conspiracies. That's actually the nature of organizational behavior. Organizations are hierarchical. They're competitive. They compete with other organizations. In order to get over on those other organizations, they will act in ways that are secretive. That is by its very nature. Secrecy and conspiracy are an inherent element of organizational behavior. And so when you start realizing that there are different conspiracies, some people will become disillusioned. And sometimes the problem is when you realize one thing is wrong and another thing is wrong that you grew up with, some people might throw everything out and say it's all a lie. But the thing is, for every single bit of element where we challenge official narratives, I would just argue we need to be evidence-based at all times, always evidence-based. So I'm always wanting to ask, like, why does someone believe what they believe? It's fine to believe something different. We all have different opinions on things, but the question is, what are those opinions based on? And it's incumbent upon someone who's challenging what the rest of the world believes to tell them why they believe otherwise. And you can't just say, trust me, this is my secret inside information. No, that's a fail. You've got to be able to present a case to other people who are skeptical of what you have to say. And if you can't do it, then get out of the way. Now, don't waste anyone's time. Like, provide evidence.
Well,
it's really simple.
You studied Cold War strategy, world history, European history, politics. This is part of what makes you, Richard Dolan. I equate things to like the TV series House of Cards, right? With Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
And as twisted as that was, and it got dark and it got twisted. I would venture to say
it wasn't twisted enough.
Right, exactly. And so if it was ever revealed about the day-to-day conspiratorial operations of Washington, D.C., and the Pentagon, and the CIA, and the NSA, what would society do? Would they physically get ill and throw up and puke? Or would they go, well, whatever? That's the danger that we're in.
I don't know the answer to that. I think some people would be very upset once things are out in the open. It's almost like the emperor's new clothes analogy. Like, I think a lot of people know that there's something very, very, very bad with everything that's going on in Washington. They kind of know. But it's not necessarily openly confirmed in all of the depths of what is happening. So if all of that were to come out, in other words, we're not Luke Skywalker, we are Darth Vader, essentially. If that were to fully come out the way that I believe it is, yes, that would be a big problem for some people. Others, there's a lot of jaded people out there already, so I don't know how it would break down, but definitely there would be some shock to some people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And we have been so desensitized with different movies about the CIA or Jason Bourne or different political thing, and presidents fallen and replaced or assassinated. It has gone on and gone on for so long that just maybe we know that kind of stuff is going on, and it wouldn't be so much of a shock to the system. But it's certainly conspiracy-based, and it's what some of us out here have been on about. You've been talking about false flags for a very, very, very long time, and false flags are it's a method of operation. It's nothing different than that. It's just what they do. I wouldn't doubt if there's a false flags 101 preparatory course in the defense school of the Americas.
Actually, I was just learning about this not even a week or two ago, but the United States actually holds what you can call false flag classes internationally. They are training young, idealistic, fanatical revolutionaries in nations around the world, and they're teaching them how to disrupt societies. So this is something, basically how to stage what was once called a color revolution back in the early 21st century. Certain Eastern European nations, Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, had what were billed as peaceful revolutions against, corrupted despotic powers. This is what the U.S. is trying to do right now in Venezuela.
That's right. That's right.
And you bring in literally a puppet that was trained by your people, and that's the case right now with Guaido in Venezuela. But it's happened in other nations. And what the U.S. money does through the U.S. National Endowment for Democracy, NED, which was founded in the 1980s, and they basically took over the job what the CIA used to do, which is regime change. But they're smarter about it. So they because everything's done through now cutouts, they'll fund international non-governmental organizations in all these different countries and throw huge amounts of money there to disrupt the society, to create leadership in that society, to get the foot soldiers and to create the platforms and the banners and the signage and the social media and all of that. And you create something out of nothing, essentially. Or you find an issue that is a legitimate issue, but you just work it and work it and work it and work it. And the next thing you know, you got a revolution on your hands and a pro-Western government is installed and the IMF is happy. So that's what the U.S. is master at. And they actually do have classes, actual literal sit down in a seat classes where someone's instructing on how you do this.
Down when I was living in Panama in the Canal Zone, right, at Fort Clayton, and you can look this up, everybody. Don't take my word for it. At Fort Clayton, there's, I don't know how many Army and military bases, Marine and Naval, Air Force. I don't know how many were down there, but I'm going to say 30, right, in Panama. That might be a pretty good number. But anyway, Fort Clayton was one of the big ones. And when you first pulled in the gates at Fort Clayton, they have this college there with all these national flags out in front, right? It's very, it's very regal. And I asked somebody one day, I said, so what is that? And this was the answer. And by the way, at any time this particular place came up in discussion, the same things were said about it, which is this. That is the School of the Americas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? What is that? That is where every dictator and military leader in Central and South America goes to school. We train them, and then they go and run a country. Right? It was like, what?
They head up to Fort Benning, Georgia for additional training.
No, that's where they have it now.
One of the most famous alums of School of the Americas.
That's right. That's where they have it now. They closed it down in Panama.
Oh, I see.
And so they moved it to the United States, the School of the Americas. But I was right there. And so I would look at it, and every time that I brought it up, either with somebody in the military or whatever, my parents or friends, other friends whose parents were teaching there, right? It was all, the Canal Zone. It was the same thing. That's where we train the dictators, man. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
This is an old story, and it goes so far back in American history. And it's not even the purpose of me talking about this with you isn't to trash the United States. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
But by avoiding these truths, we're not helping ourselves by pretending. Like with all of this nonsense, and it is nonsense about Russian meddling in our elections. I mean, we've been hearing about this for 2 years. But the thing that's really the funniest about it is all the pearl clutching, all the media people saying, oh, my goodness, they're meddling in our election. When the United States, that's what America does, has always done, always will do, as long as it has the power to do it. America, there's none better. There are no nations that can even remotely compete with America's ability to meddle in other nations' electoral process and in their quote unquote democracy. Like, that's what America does. And whether it's through School of the Americas training dictators to engage in coups and repress their populations, or now through the National Endowment of Democracy and USAID and all of these State Department cutout organizations that throw money, billions of dollars, into foreign nations to destabilize. I mean, what the United States did to nations like Libya will forever be a great, great black stain on American history. And people really need to understand the true history of what happened, what went down there, and ditto with Syria. And these are things that, the sycophantic U.S. media, which is totally owned by the major corporate interests that are in bed with the intelligence community, they will never, ever speak honestly about this. And so for this reason, whether you're from Fox land or MSNBC land or CNN or whatever, there are some variations in there. Yeah, it's true. But by and large, all of these are corporate, established, in bed with intelligence organization type propaganda organizations. That's all they are. They're just doing propaganda. And it's no different, by the way, with BBC.
RT. Yeah. Russia Today. Oh, man. it's unbelievable.
Well, with RT, I'm going to just say this right now. I'm going to defend them because I at least don't feel my intelligence insulted when I read RT. And I'm going to say this because right now CNN just called out RT and had Facebook basically sycophantically ban organizations on Facebook that were supposedly funded by the Russian government. And, they don't follow that rule with any other government. They don't do that with British or French or Canadian news, but they do it with these, which are funded like the third or fourth generation. Like they're not even funded directly by the Russian government. So no, I would actually challenge you on that. And I
no. I go to RT's my go-to site, by the way. Okay, let me be very clear. Look, there's no reporting on any mainstream media right now about what's going on in Venezuela, except for today that Trump spoke about it. But for the last month, You've got to go to RT for any updates on Venezuela.
Right. I thought you were lumping them in with the others, and I was going to say no. Sorry.
Oh, it's definitely RT. Still the propaganda arm of Moscow. That's Putin's thing.
But here's the difference. All right, you can actually fact check them, and you can get information that you can then investigate. You can do the same with CNN, of course. Which I do that every day.
Right.
I read CNN. It's painful at times, but I read it every day. But the thing is, what you see is. Everyone's got their spin. Fox has got their spin. MSNBC's got their spin. HuffPo's got their spin. RT's got their spin. All true. But the question is, how much information are you getting? And I would suggest, and I think you're inclined to agree, that you get vastly more information on a wide array of subjects with RT over any of the other U.S. Western groups. You go head-to-head, I would throw RT up against CNN plus Fox plus MSNBC plus WAPO, plus New York Times. RT, I think, would kick their ass one side of the sidewalk and down the other.
Yeah, you're right. And the difference is, we got to take a break right here, Richard. At least with RT today, they are reporting the news on the top half, and then it's opinion pieces on the bottom, where all of the mainstream media, Western mainstream media, the opinion pieces are the headlines, and they are stating that as news.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's a really dangerous.
And they have opinions on the left and right of the spectrum, by the way.
They do. They do.
They're pretty balanced.
No, and a lot of American writers on that site too as well.
That's right.
Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Richard Bleepin Dolan. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about some of that government money going into UFO programs and research. We're going to talk about all of that when we come back. It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas. Come join us for the 2019 Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles at the LAX Hilton. This year, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Chariots of the Gods with Eric Von Daniken, and I'll be hosting the panel with Eric. Linda Moulton Howe, Jason Martell, Billy Carson, and join George Norrie, Nassim Haramein, Robert Schock, Daniel Brinkley, Grant Cameron, Julia Mossbridge, and another 50 speakers who will be presenting at the 2019 Conscious Life Expo. Just go to ConsciousLifeExpo.com for tickets and a full conference schedule, or click on the CLE banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're of the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What a great night tonight. Richard Dolan is here. Tomorrow it is David Icke.
I cannot wait for that. And Wednesday night, we're going to do Q. Haven't done a Q show here on Fade to Black. I am Q Curious with the Q Army. In the Matrix and Shady Groove are here on Wednesday. And then Thursday night is our 1,000th show. Think about that. Let's get back to Richard. Richard, 1,000 shows, my man.
Yeah, well done on that.
Yeah, I just can't believe. I
was thinking about something during the break.
Well, were you listening to me text during the break?
Well, of course, I hear all, but that's not what I was thinking about.
Okay, go ahead.
I was thinking about the conversation that we were just having, and here we are both talking about RT, and it's almost as if we're in an era now in 2019 where you really have to wonder, like, if you're a public person and you start saying things that are against the mainstream corporate narrative, like, is something to come back and bite you in the ass over it? I mean, it's that bad in our culture right now.
Totally, 100%.
But it got me thinking about it, and my reaction was, well, the hell with that. I don't really care. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and that's it. And I've always been that way. But nonetheless, there is a culture in our society now that it's spreading, and everyone knows it. Everyone knows this is the case. That is a culture based on fear and intimidation and silencing of alternate opinions. And no one is immune to it. And so even when we fight it, we are aware that we're fighting it. And that's we have to defeat that culture. We've got to defeat this attitude. It is encroaching. It's part of it is deplatforming. Part of it is shaming. Part of it is, actually just censoring as well. And then attacking. But all of it is dangerous. And none of this was the world that, anyone who's old enough knows, like, this is not the world that many of us grew up in, but it's the world that's become. And
it's the opposite of what we were taught. Right? It's the opposite of what we were taught. And I'll give you a classic example, and then we're going to get on to UFOs. We've got way too much to discuss tonight, and I want to get it all in. But I'm going to give the most classic example that I can give to anybody right now, and that is Alex Jones. Now, Alex Jones, no matter what your opinion is of Alex, that doesn't matter. This country was based on certain principles. Alex was his own worst enemy. For sure, he knew the line that he wasn't supposed to cross, and he crossed it. There are when you're dealing with private companies like the things in Silicon Valley that have their requirements, then you need to play the game by their rules, just like anything else. You go into somebody else's house, you know how to behave. He pushed it, but you don't systematically synchronize a deplatforming of somebody like that. You don't do it. And the fact that we all had to witness that was shameful. It was shameful. And I'm not defending Alex's things that he has said or done. That's not what I'm saying. But he certainly has the right to play within the rules and to be able to speak. And that, I thought, was just vicious. It's like the Salem witch trials. Right. That's exactly what you remember. All of the things that we use as our principles, they always go back to, like, the Salem witch trials and the lynchings and the mobs and the torches and the pitchforks and raiding somebody's house because of an association. It's just like, wait, stop with that.
Well, they went after him because of so-called hate speech and then the whole Sandy Hook thing. But I would just say that, and I know some people aren't going to like this, but I would maintain that hate speech is not a legitimate legal concept. And in the United States, it still doesn't have, as far as I know, a formal legal status, and it shouldn't. Other nations do have it. So by designating certain speech as hateful, you thereby legislate what people are and are not allowed to say. And the problem with that as a definition is that it's incredibly flexible and plastic and pliable. So it can change. This week, hate speech can be one thing. Next month, it can be something else. That's the problem with it. It's an utterly fluid concept. You never know where you stand. And it was used against Alex Jones in this particular case. But the very concept of hate speech is a pernicious, dangerous concept. It's one thing to say something bad or say something that people disagree with, But what we have historically legislated about in free societies are not speech, but actions. There's the old adage, don't shout fire in a crowded movie theater, but that's not what he was doing. And when people argue that he was doing that, they're just stretching the boundaries of common sense out of all proportion and out of all sensibility and reason. So, no, we have a society based on freedom of expression. And I think it was Jordan Peterson who put it better than anyone I've ever heard, which is that free speech isn't simply an ordinary right. It is the very foundation by which free societies can regulate themselves. You can't have a functioning society if you don't allow people who disagree with you to express themselves. They have to be able to, because that's how we all get better. Like I don't get better unless you can disagree with me and point out to me mistakes that I've made, and vice versa. And when you don't have that in a society, when you break that down, you're damaging the core functionality of what it is to have freedom in a society. And the deplatforming of Alex Jones is one of those examples. And the fact that it happened in a coordinated way with Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, all like boom. Obviously, there was significant marching orders coming from somewhere else.
Yeah, today's social media is so dangerous and so quick and so fast that changing or inflaming opinions and emotions is now what everybody does. And I'm going to go back. Well, let me bring
on
up
my show. I mean, I do several live streams every week, and I got to tell you, I'm constantly wondering, am I going to get dinged by YouTube this time?
Right,
because it happens.
I'm so conscious of that. Well, I want
there are algorithms out there, yeah, and it's not even human beings that you're fighting with.
Nope.
Where you're fighting with artificially intelligent algorithms that, by the way, have their own biases, as we're now learning, and you can get dinged by YouTube. They'll demonetize or they'll give you a strike one and that type of thing, and you can petition it and fight it, which I have had to do more than one time. So far I'm in good standing with YouTube. I haven't done anything yet, but they get me, and then we fight it, and then they take it back. So, but it's a constant, is it going to be this week? Is it going to be this time? Over things that are, I never say anything that's actually offensive on any program that I do, but I talk about things that are sometimes difficult, sometimes controversial. That's what life is. That's what we do here. And it's getting to a point where I think really people need to be wondering what is happening. China's implementing their social credit system.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that Western countries are immune to that? We're already seeing early versions of it being implemented here through social media shaming, for example. But it's going to be much more. You give it 10 years. China's got it now. Give us 10 years. We're going to see it.
Yeah, everybody needs to be really conscious of this thought. And if you don't think we're close to this, listen to my words. When you go and apply for a credit card, your FICO score will be the last thing that they look at. Right? It's going to be, you are going to be ranked in ways that you have no idea. Pop in your email, and so you can get confirmation on your credit card application, right? Just pop that in there and just let them go crazy. And that's where we're going to have that kind of social ranking.
And wait for 5G to get rolled out in all of its glory, because 5G is the total comprehensive system. That's the smart internet. That's all your smart devices that can talk to each other and spy on you in ways that will make you think the era of the cell phone was the golden age of privacy. That's how bad it will be. Everything is going to be monitored.
That's it.
Everything. So there's no escape, and all of that you'll be graded, ranked, modeled in algorithms, psychologically profiled, and minority reported, and everything else. Like all of that will happen. There's nothing that's going to stop this. This is a runaway train, and it's actually really scary to look at because with the 5G implementation, and they know about the health effects of this. There's no way not to know that this is dangerous technology, but I will guarantee you that people rolling it out do not care, because for them 5G is a necessity. not only for total surveillance, which is a nice fringe benefit, but simply for military advantage and for corporate money-making opportunities. It's too lucrative. And it's too powerful, so they will never hesitate rolling it out. And if a few million people die from the effects, well, they'll pay the lawsuits. That's my prediction. And it will roll out, and we're looking at a culture that grows up in such a comprehensively surveilled society with not a single iota of privacy. That's creating a Borg mentality, and that's my biggest fear. So social credit system, yeah, that'll be a given. But you wait for the future generations growing up with toxic food, toxic education, toxic information all around them, zoning out in virtual reality, total immersive VR, all of that. That's what we're looking at. I don't know how to stop it, but thinking people really need to care about this because this is happening. It's happening. And by the way, we can segue into UFOs because I do think that there are tie-ins here. But this is a very, very serious. It's what we're seeing now with the social pressures and the propaganda that's being levied against us every single day. This is one symptom, one element of a larger transformation of our society from something like freedom to something like 24/7 totalitarianism, and we're seeing it happen by stages. That's all we're seeing.
Yeah, 5G, the database, the individual database for every person on this planet, certainly everybody from newborns as we are talking through adulthood and seniors, the databases are already there. And once 5G rolls out, it's just tying in that database to you and your smart devices. And it's that simple that it's seriously just the flip of a switch.
And it turns up the flow of information exponentially. That's the thing. Like the amount of data
real time
flow through 5G is just off the chart, like 100 times more or even greater than 4G. So it allows, and the way that, by the way, artificial intelligence will probably develop is through massive amounts of data. 5G will make that possible. So look for the singularity of artificial intelligence to happen, facilitated by 5G capabilities.
I wanted to let's get right into UFOs. I wanted to ask you about the two videos that surfaced over the last month. The one that surfaced out of Utah and one out of Spain that are nearly identical, both shot with drones, oddly enough. And both with the UFOs apparently appearing in mountain ranges and moving at pretty great speeds. What do you think about those two videos?
Well, let me talk about the Utah video first because I'm a little bit more familiar with that one anyway. I'm aware of the one out of Spain. I think it sounds very interesting as well, but I will confess I haven't really been subjected to like an analysis of it, and I'd be more comfortable talking about the Utah one. The Utah one to me is particularly interesting. There's a lot of people pro and con about it, but basically it was filmed at the later part of 2016, I think in November, and it's a hell of a video to watch for sure. And there's a lot of different analyses that are available now about it. But essentially, you've got people have sort of done a what do I want to say here? The trajectory of it and sort of mapped it out on Google Earth. And according to at least one argument, the parallax argument, the object moved something like 2.5 or 3 miles in such a short period of time. It was estimated moving multiple thousands of miles per hour, maybe 9,000, 10,000 miles per hour or more. There are alternative arguments. I've been really doing my best to see where these guys are coming from. So whether it's a hawk, falcon moving at a relatively slow speed, insect, doesn't seem very credible to me. I have to be honest, and just every time I look at that video, I don't see hawk at all. And by the way, I've gotten a lot of correspondence from falcon and hawk experts into my inbox, and I will just tell you, every one of them, and these are clearly highly expert people, they're all saying, no, not a hawk, not a falcon, not even close, not a chance. So it's either, in my opinion, I'm ruling out hawks and and insects, I don't think that's credible at all. It's either real, legit, or it's CGI. CGI is, at least in theory, a possibility. My understanding is that these types of videos, it is possible to craft a video that is convincing. I've talked to a couple of CGI experts who say that it can be done. The problem is when you listen to the gentleman who was operating the drone at the time, I've listened to a couple of his interviews. He's kind of put his background out there for everyone to analyze, and I think he made it pretty clear that he's not a CGI expert, not even close. He's just a drone guy. I didn't really get that sense from him that he was trying to make this up, and if someone wants to make that claim, they'd better provide some evidence. I'm not seeing any reason to believe that this was CGI. So to me, I'm going on the assumption that this drone video is what it appears, of a genuine UFO, and I would point out that in our history, go back to the 40s, go back to the 1950s, we have official government documents that talk about instruments tracking objects moving at multiple thousands of miles per hour. And, you know, whether triangulated through something like Project Twinkle in the early 1950s, which was an attempt by the United States Air Force to track these anomalous objects that were being seen in the southwestern U.S., or when you talk about Navy missile trackers in 1948 who are about to launch a skyhook balloon and they see through theodolites, these are measuring devices like telescopes that have the ability to measure altitude and azimuth and so forth. With those instruments, they tracked an incredibly fast elliptical white or silver UFO moving at estimated possibly as high as 18,000 miles per hour, 5 miles per second. So there's a lot of these types of seemingly well-attested, measured sightings by U.S. military of objects going at ridiculously fast speeds. So it's not out of the realm of possibility is what I'm saying. There are very, very rapid moving objects, and we have them in our documented, declassified history. So with that in mind, I think it's a mistake for skeptics to go on the assumption it can't be, therefore it isn't, which is what you get with a lot of these people. So they'll then, do all kinds of mental gymnastics to find an excuse to label something as a hawk. I mean, I understand wanting to find conventional explanations, and you should. Like, we should always look for conventional explanations. But when the conventional explanation itself is ridiculous, then you got to ask yourself, well, what are we talking about here? So with the Utah UFO video, I'm on the side of the fence at the moment of thinking that it's legit and that it's anomalous. I could be persuaded otherwise, but
the video out of Spain is nearly identical. Have you seen the video out of Spain?
So I saw JPEG. I saw a still image of it, so I haven't looked at the video.
Okay,
I'm embarrassed.
It doesn't really matter in that it's the Spanish version of the same video.
Okay.
So you have a drone cruising around looking at real estate, whatever, in a mountainous region of Spain. And then out of the side of this mountain pops
Tracy's
this.
Showing me right now.
Right. So watch that. And nearly the same. And they did the same breakdown. They did the Google Earth, the mapping, the terrain. And in this case, though, this case, it exits the mountain, right? It looks like it comes.
Just came out a few days ago, I see.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, maybe.
2?
Yeah.
All right, fine.
About 2 weeks ago.
I feel like I've been out of the loop a little bit.
But
this one here was published February 10th, so I'm going on that.
And today's the 18th. Okay, right. A week and a half ago.
That's 8 days, Jim.
Man,
give me this much.
Okay, I'll give you 8 days. I'll give you 8 days, but anyway, you're only allowed 2 days leeway here. Okay, you get 2 days cushion, but it seems very similar. Now, are we looking at a copycat video of Utah, right? Somebody that watched the Utah video and then went and created that, or are we looking at the same object, the same type of craft, in a remote region. And again,
well, here's why it doesn't have to be a copycat video, because if you really think about it logically, all right, we're in an era now where cameras are everywhere. YouTube is now ubiquitous. And so it's not, and 4K capabilities are now out there. This looks like I'm sure it's a 4K video, just like the Utah one. So with the capabilities and the resolution being what they are, it shouldn't be shocking that we're catching things that we would not otherwise have seen. So at least just in theory. But of course it could be a copycat video. I mean, why not?
Sure. And now we have, everybody is seeing this. You've got a drone that can go out and shoot at 1080 or 4K video. You can go out and shoot in any remote region and just, apply, rinse and repeat and apply an object into your video. Mm-hmm. And would this, start to give people ideas to go and do this? I would like to say that the Spain video is just as legit looking as the Utah video. It's a pretty good video, and it's fun to watch.
To those of us who aren't technically trained in video analysis, yeah, I would agree with you. It looks every bit as good. With all of these videos, what you have to do is get the backstory to the maximum extent possible. Like YouTube videos, unfortunately, by themselves aren't really going to cut it. They never will.
Right.
So you've got to go back. You've got to interview the witnesses. You've got to get as much detailed information about the backstory of the person. It's like going to trial. You get character witnesses. You get any other kind of relevant testimony that you can get. And we still may never be in a position where we can 100% confirm it, but maybe we can get to a point where we can say it looks real or it looks fake. And that's at least better than not having any idea. It's an interesting video. I'm looking at it again and again right here.
Yeah, and
it has the same kind of graceful arc of motion.
The same drone flyby at the end. Right? It's the same.
By the way, a lot of people argued that because the Utah, and I'm sure with the Spanish one here, because it had that graceful arc, there were arguments that said, well, that mitigates against it being a genuine UFO. It's almost as if they expected a genuine UFO to have, always non-inertial turns and this type of thing. And historically, that just isn't true. So historically, UFO sightings have had many examples of craft moving in extremely graceful arcs, like a bird would do, except that they're not birds. So I don't think it's a fair argument to make that, because it moves in what seems to be a proper aerodynamic manner, that it's therefore not anomalous. I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me.
And the other thing, what if there's a human in that craft, or and that there's a human element, a terrestrial element to this? It's not necessarily ET. That there's
that can get us into some of the science that I would love to talk about with you tonight, because I've really been forming the opinion that it's the world of science, perhaps maybe even more than the world of politics, that might promote or push what we might consider a genuine disclosure of the UFO subject. Because it seems to me that some of the science being discussed currently, and I'm talking last year or so, is attempting to explain just how, if there were a human in those objects, and I'm not saying that's the case, but if there were, how a human could actually survive and how it would be possible.
Well, let's do that when we come back. Yeah, let's take our break right here. And our guest tonight is Richard Dolan, Richard Bleepin' Dolan. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of those projects and the money that's involved with them, who's doing it, and the why. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan. We'll be back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRA Radio.com.
yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Teppy. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products, available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the paranormal radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Rhys Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow our guest tonight, Richard Dolan, at Rich Dolan on Twitter. Very simple to do. Now, Richard, talking about these projects, the list was released, and we got this last month, but it was who signed it, right? And it's Christine Campanisi, the chief of the DIA Congressional Relations Division, and the distribution of this list is right here. Majority Leader, U.S. Senate, Speaker, U.S. House, blah, blah, blah. It goes all the way down. Right. And there was one thing at the bottom of the letter that I found interesting, which is, everything is unclassified except for attachment number 37, and it's got a secret, no foreign version of attachment 38. And then you scroll down and take a quick peek at number 37, which is state-of-the-art and evolution of high-energy laser weapons. Okay, right. All right, okay. So, but the rest of it is all pretty interesting for our community. When you saw the distribution list and the list of reports here that is being distributed, what did you think?
Well, yeah, I just want to give a little background for folks. So what you're referring to is about a month ago, the Defense Intelligence Agency released a list of, as you just said, unclassified scientific papers that are dealing with some very, very leading edge, cutting edge, some critics would say sci-fi, fantastical types of concepts. These were actually commissioned under the program, the ATIP program, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, so the UFO program that everyone's been talking about since late 2017. And actually these papers were first discussed, as far as I know, by Hal Puthoff last summer in 2018 for the Society of Scientific Exploration, SSE conference that they had I think it was in June of 2018. He mentioned them there, and then I think it was through FOIA, but somehow the DIA just released those very titles about a month ago. So it's an incredible list of subjects, and just to give people an idea if they haven't heard about this, so one of the papers, this is one that actually Puthoff himself wrote, called Advanced Space Propulsion Based on Vacuum Space-Time Metric Engineering. You think about that. I'm happy to talk about it to my limited ability. And they've got others like invisibility cloaking, traversable wormholes, stargates, and negative energy, and much more. The one that is fully classified, as you mentioned, has to do with high-energy laser weapons, and so it's a clear military application, and I assume they don't want that out there yet. But these others are basically speculative papers, and the question is, you really ask, what is going on here? And the backstory of this is actually quite interesting, and this really gets me thinking about, a lot of things. One is the whole TTSA venture, led by, at least fronted by Tom DeLonge, which has been such a lightning rod of conversation and controversy since it's been announced. But in my opinion, the person to be looking at with that whole operation isn't DeLonge, and it isn't even Lou Elizondo, although I guess he's interesting. But the person to be looking at is Hal Puthoff.
How long have you known Hal?
It's funny. I've known him, not close, but we have known each other in a very cordial way for almost 20 years now. So when my first book came out in 2000, I self-published that book. It was, that was before Amazon too. So it was, I self-published in the truly old school method. Like I had to go through the whole process of finding printers and distributors and all of that. But my book came out in the middle of 2000. People started to learn about me in the later part of 2000. And one of those people apparently was Hal Puthoff, who told me, he wrote to me. And even then I knew who he was. I was very inexperienced. And I nearly fell off my chair when he told me that he had actually bought a bunch of copies of my book and had given it out to a number of his colleagues. I thought, oh, wow, okay, well, there we go. So I, over the years, would correspond with him. We would chat. I met with him in person a few times. And I really want to emphasize, it's not like I was his buddy. We were never that close, but we respected each other. And we had a couple of conversations that I would classify as heart-to-heart that were personal and where I felt like we took each other's measure, as it were, and I think we respected each other. So I was fortunate, and what I've never tried to do is push that relationship. I mean, he's busy. He's a very interesting and busy person. But from time to time, if I have questions, he's one of the people that I would correspond with and ask and get his take on whatever it is I'm interested in, on any aspect of ufology. What I learned over the years is that this was a man who wasn't just the co-founder of the remote viewing program, which, of course, famously with Russell Targ, but and he's not just a guy who is interested in zero-point energy and leading-edge energy solutions, but he's someone who's had an active interest in UFOs. And starting last summer, he outed himself as someone who's actually had a long-standing interest and concern with the UFO phenomenon. And I knew this, of course, but he went out and stated it. I think he's in his 80s now, and I really have come to believe that he is an incredibly important person for where we are at right now at this phase of history with our knowledge of the UFO phenomenon and people who are interested in what we call disclosure. I put him at a really important place in all of this. And it just seems to me there's a very, very small amount of discussion about him, whereas his importance is much, much greater than the amount of conversation about him, seems to me.
The community needs to hear from him. Why don't we hear from Hal directly?
I write to him, and he'll get back to me when he wants to. You know, I've asked to interview him many times, and he gives these wonderful soft no's, which is like, well, yeah, I'll think about it. I'll get back to you. Which, of course, that's his no. He's a very, very dignified, sophisticated, polite man, but he's also very careful about his public statements. He's always been, he's worked within the classified world for a really long time. And so he's learned the game. He knows what he's allowed to say and what he's able to say and what he can't say. So I think his position is just, not put himself in a position where he's going to be saying things that he can't say. I think it's that simple. So the easiest thing is just to avoid it altogether. But I will say this, like his public statements now are a matter of record, and particularly of supreme importance is his statement at the SSE conference last summer. And he talked shockingly, candidly about the UFO phenomenon, talked about his relationship to the entire ATIP program, which was as a subcontractor to Bigelow Advanced Aerospace Systems, BASS. Bigelow contracted with Hal Puthoff's company, Earth Tech International, to collaborate as a subcontractor, which he agreed to do. And his main thing here, this is an incredible behind-the-scenes thing that he did, which was he identified that there was so much compartmentalization in the subject of UFOs. Everything's compartmented. And he had said this to me many times over the years. And he said that it's a problem because if you're trying scientifically to understand this phenomenon and you really want to get the best minds involved, it's difficult because everything is so compartmented. No one knows what each other's doing. So he wanted to get expert opinions on advanced tech in a variety of fields, but he wasn't in a position to let these individuals know why he wanted it. So what he did was to ask for what he called unclassified white papers from experts around the world on their particular areas and where their science would be in the year 2050.
I'm not sure I understand.
And what the heck is that? Is that you or me?
That was you, and you got to love it when Siri kicks in. It happens to me here, too, as well.
How crazy.
I know,
well,
right?
I don't have Alexa, but I guess I have Siri.
Yeah. What did you say?
We understand that Siri is not at the point of understanding black world technology yet, so that's good.
Well, you see, the thing is the fact that you are talking about the CIA and NSA, and you said top secret a couple of times, it went straight to their database. But see, this is the thing, Richard. I was with, and I found, the whole compartmentalized aspect of this. Right. Last week, I was going to mention this to you this week over the phone. I just forgot. But last week, and don't ask me how or where. I don't want to give anything away. And it wasn't some top secret thing. It was a chance meeting that I had with somebody in the Air Force, right? And so, and he's got, he's like a sergeant major, right? He's got all the stripes on, he's distinctive guy. He's in uniform, in fatigues. And I said, hey, what do you do? And you know me, I'm a loudmouth guy. And he says, okay, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to give his identity away, but he dealt with satellites, okay? Okay. Which is basically what goes, there's no Air Force bases here in Los Angeles, right? So anyway, I said, hey, you got a security clearance? And he goes, of course I do. I said, okay, what do you have? He goes, well, I really can't get into it, but let's just say I definitely have a secret. I said, what's above that? And he goes, top secret. I said, okay. What's above that? He goes, well, nothing. There's only one. I said, okay, what's above? I need clarification here. And I told him, I said, I'm a radio host. I do this, I do that, blah, blah, blah. Right. And he goes, okay, Yankee White. I said, Yankee White? And he goes, yeah, that's it. I said, well, what about a Q clearance? He goes, there's no such thing. I said, well, what about a, and he goes, no, come on, man. There isn't. He goes, there's secret, there's top secret, and Yankee White. Now, when you get a top secret clearance, what you are exposed to is limited, but there are no other clearances or classifications. It's either secret, top secret, or Yankee White. And I was like, really? And
I just looked it up. It's a security clearance given in the U.S. for personnel working with the president.
That's right.
That's what it says right here.
Yep. And I came back home. I was like, Rita, you got to check this out, right? And I even told him, I said, can I text that to me right now? And he goes, hey, man, proceed at your own risk, right? And I was okay. So I text Yankee White to me, but there you go. And I said, so what do I do when somebody says, hey, I was in the Air Force and I had a Q clearance? He goes, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And he looked at me like, and he had nothing to hide, right? It was just really, really funny. But, yeah, Yankee White. So there you go. Breaking news on this show.
That's very interesting. Now, if you look at Q clearance, I mean, even Wikipedia gives you Q access authorization as a DOE, Department of Energy security clearance, required to access top secret restricted data, formerly restricted, and so forth. So, it does exist.
Yeah, I'm just going with what I was told. Yeah. That and he was.
Plus, it's on the TV show Archer, so it's got to be true.
I know, right? It's on NCIS, man. Right. I saw it there.
Well, I want to finish this point on Putoff because I think it's very significant, like what he did in this area in soliciting these papers. What he actually did then, he went to leading experts in various fields around the world to get their sense of what their field was or would be like in 2050 as a general survey of different futures in aerospace. And his reasoning was he felt this would be the best way to get the best knowledge we had across all these technologies without exposing why they wanted to know it.
Right.
So this is how he operated, and he gets 38 contracts over a 2-year period for these papers. And that's the 38. So these were all Hal Putoff's initiative as his element, as his part of being a subcontractor to Bigelow, who was subcontracting to the ATIP program. And the papers are fascinating.
Is this well, let me jump in, Richard.
Yeah.
Is this what the $22 million was spent on?
I don't know. Well, maybe in theory, part.
I don't see $22 million here, but
I don't think these would cost $22 million to
right.
produce these papers. don't know how much money was expended on it, but I would not think it's a significant amount of money.
But it came out of that budget.
My understanding is that most of that money went for a study of the Skinwalker Ranch. That's what I'm understanding.
Which is also Bigelow.
What Putoff said in this lecture, by the way, this is in the Q&A section. I watched this lecture very carefully. He essentially stated, without stating it, that there were multiple programs other than the ATIP. Like, that was the tip of the iceberg, as it were. There were lots of other programs. So what was revealed in the New York Times piece is, do you remember you and I talked about this when the New York Times piece came out? And I said that this is like cauterizing a wound. And I think that I was exactly right. In other words, the New York Times, which is an organization, in my view, never to be trusted as a news agency, ever. But they put out this, what seems like a pretty good story on UFOs back in December of 2017. And we were all thinking, wow, how did that happen? Well, it happened because, in my view, my opinion why it happened is that they knew that story was going to come out because TTSA was out, Putoff was out there, Semivan and Elizondo were out there talking. This information about the Tic Tac UFO and ultimately about these programs and all of this, the papers would have come out. And I think what the New York Times did was they put out a story to make it as small as possible. And I am not trying to malign Leslie Kean or the other journalists she worked with, okay? But the fact is, journalists are not the final word on these articles that come out in the Times. All right, there's always editorial oversight. So that's how it works. And I think what the Times piece was you let out as much as you have to when the reality is so much more involved. But back to the significance of these papers. And
is there one that stands out? There's a bunch of them for me, and some of them I actually have the reports. You know of this too as well. But some of these are, well, yeah, I even used the word science fiction with you last year when you and I were exposed to this. But interesting reading. What stands out for you here?
Well, the most important thing cumulatively is why these papers were solicited. And the reason is explicitly to understand potentially how what we would call UFO technology operates. All right, because the fact was, and I got this directly in an email from Hal Putoff, and he said, I can repeat it. He just said, the most important thing, this is his words, it seems to me, is that based on the technical sophistication of our military platforms, the data concerning appearance of these advanced technologies is no longer in question. Let me just repeat that or paraphrase it. He's saying that because of the technical sophistication of our military platforms, our ability to obtain data on these anomalous objects is so good now that the data about them is no longer in question. All right. And then he says, and in the absence of clear knowledge of intent of what these objects are doing, it is a national security priority to obtain the best assessment possible. So that's why this whole thing was initiated, at least his part of it. And I just have to say, this work that he did behind the scenes to get this type of information, I think is quite admirable and important. I think
some of these titles, like number 5, Advanced Space Propulsion Based on Vacuum.
That's his personal paper.
That's his personal
paper. And I have
paper.
that full paper here.
So do I.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. Space-time metric. And
he's talking about warping space-time.
Yes.
Right? That's the whole thing. Like to change the space-time metric means to bend space and time are unified. They're not unified, but they're interrelated. They're not separate. And so by perturbing it or by warping it in some way, you are creating an ability to, I guess we could say, move through space in a way that's different from general propulsion, and in a way that makes the speed of light barrier, incidentally, kind of irrelevant.
And then there's, for me, really fascinating, number 9, high-frequency gravitational wave communications by Dr. Robert Baker.
Right. Like, what is a gravitational wave communication? These are highly advanced, beyond next generation technologies, as Lou Elizondo put the UFOs themselves, beyond next generation. And that's what these are attempting to understand. There are some criticisms by the mainstream scientific community that this is all nonsense and a waste of taxpayer money. And I would just say, I don't know where they're coming from, but this is exactly the opposite. It's not a waste. Doing these types of studies is very, very important. And the real thing that, we wonder, and I've not gotten an answer from Putoff on this. I just have this idea, this feeling that obviously this is a phenomenon that they have been dealing with for 70 plus years. All right. This isn't like it didn't just appear with the Tic Tac UFO. And I'm always a little bit bemused when I hear people like Harry Reid just made a statement a couple of weeks ago. He's retired now from the Senate, but he goes out and yes, it's very good that he goes to the media and says, we need a congressional hearing on UFOs. Great. Totally. Yes. But they're all talking like, well, we don't know what these things are. When in fact, there's a history of retrieval of crashed UFOs. That's a pretty damn good history, and it's pretty clear cut that we have indeed recovered. Now, one of the things is Putoff himself has talked about retrieved materials. And in fact, one of the interesting things about his talk last summer was his conversation about the so-called metamaterial. And we don't have to get into all the detail here, but it's quite fascinating. This is a material that was obtained and agreed. There's no provenance. We have no idea how this thing appeared. Nevertheless, so there's no chain of custody, I guess. But it was sent, I think, years ago to Art Bell. And so when would that have been? In the 90s, I suppose. And it turned out to be so unusual. It was a multi-layered bismuth and magnesium sample. The bismuth layers were less than a human hair. And the magnesium samples, I think he said, were something like 10 times the size of a human hair. And just layer after layer. I mean, unbelievably sophisticated, supposedly picked up in a crash retrieval, I think from the 40s, actually, I think is what it was said. So what he said about this in his lecture is that for the longest time, we didn't really even know like who could have made this. They tried to reproduce it. They couldn't get the layers to bond. And when they talked to people in the field of material science who you would think would know, they didn't have any idea why someone would want to make anything like this. It wasn't obvious as to what the function would be. And the fascinating thing is decades later, finally, he said, our science has moved along and is beginning to catch up to this. And it's the area known as metamaterials. And I think he said, like, it turned out exactly this combination of materials at exactly those dimensions turned out to be an excellent microscopic waveguide for very high frequency electromagnetic radiation, terahertz frequencies. And I heard that and I'm like, what does that mean?
I know, right? And we're going to head towards a break. And during the break, I want you to think about what I'm about to say. There's also a rumor, wink, wink, that Putoff has got some Rendlesham debris, and they are analyzing that. So think about that. Now, when we come back, Richard, I want to know who's reading these reports. That's the key here. We'll talk about all of this when we come back. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up. Standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com, dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan. Great conversation tonight. I always expect that with Richard, though. He always delivers on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can also follow Richard at Rich Dolan. I remember years ago, Rich, you forgot that you had a Twitter account. I remember you.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I remember
yes,
you. I think
true.
I do. I don't really follow it. I was like, oh man, one day it's going to be a Twitter world, and it has certainly arrived. Okay, Richard, back to these reports. And also tonight, I want to try to get in a little conversation about Project Blue Book too, as well. I want to try to swing back in that direction. But these reports are obviously important but they're only worth anything if somebody's reading them. Who's reading these reports?
Well, they're not in the public domain by and large. I think some of them have leaked out. Some of them have been published as genuine white papers in their fields, peer-reviewed, that type of thing. What I learned is most of them are just sitting in a defense server. I think it's called the JWICS server. I had to look that up, and it stands for, I don't know, Joint Weapons. Wait, I'm looking for it here. Anyway, it's in a particular server. I had it right here, and now here I can't find it. Yeah, Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communications System. So it's technically they're technically unclassified. So what that means is they are available through FOIA. Like you could get them. I believe, and I don't know how many people have really tried. Probably the simplest thing, since the papers are now out, the titles are in the public domain, you can probably just write to these people and ask for them. They very well might be able to do that. But the only one that I have a full copy of is Puthoff's actual paper, which, believe it or not, I read, or at least, without the equations. I can't really get to those, but it's fascinating. But about engineering the vacuum. Amazing stuff.
But what's important here is if you're going to write the report and study these subjects, well, they need to be read by the scientific community.
Oh, well, yeah. So the whole point of them, of course, is for them to be read by the military.
Right.
That was the whole reason that they existed. And the one thing that I can say, Puthoff wrote to me and just said, for the record, where is this now here? He says, here it is. I'm told that this set of papers remains the most accessed series to this date in the JWICS server because of their technical content. They've become the Bible, he says, for technical people. These papers are very, very highly regarded. But the purpose of them was totally for military people to get a handle on UFO tech. However, that doesn't mean that these won't come out. I think they need to come out. People need to understand. Now, they're speculative by their nature, but they seem to be highly regarded within the military. So, I mean, hell, here's one: warp drive, dark energy, and the manipulation of extra dimensions. I mean, good grief. And here we are. Our field gets so worked up with stupid, banal drama, which, by the way, look, when there are bad things that happen in this field, it's very important to call it out. So don't get me wrong there. But the fact is that there's so much of substance in the field of UFO research that is right there in front of us, begging to be discussed. And I just think that we're better served by focusing on the substance.
Well, Eric Davis, very prolific, very smart guy.
Right.
And the DIA on their servers has a report titled Transversible Wormholes, Stargates, and Negative Energy.
Right. What's that all about, right?
That's
like right out of Star Trek Deep Space Nine or something like
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
except that they're talking about it for real. And again, speculative, but science, I would assume, anyway, scientifically sound speculation and a roadmap for future directions, very possibly.
The list is about as fascinating as it gets. I put it out there on Twitter, and everybody can go and access the server. It's all right here. And
by the way, you mentioned the rumors about the Rendlesham, something from the Rendlesham being studied by Earth Tech. I don't know about that, but one of the papers is paper number 12 by Dr. Kit Green, who's another very famous individual, longtime CIA. His paper is on field effects on biological tissues. And I mentioned Rendlesham because, of course, famously there have been people involved in that case who have suffered damage to biological tissues. And this is a very, very well-known thing. And so you get this in the Condign report from the late 1990s that also was declassified. And from what I understand, almost accidentally declassified in the early 2000s. That report talked about biological effects from these UAP on human beings. So here we have a paper by Dr. Kit Green on field effects on biological tissues.
What do we do, Richard? You've been writing about this and studying this for so long now. What do we do with guys like Kit Green and Semivan and others, Justice, where their affiliations, and that even goes to Luis Elizondo too as well, right. Where they their associations directly with the CIA and with the DIA right. for years and years and years, and suddenly we are being forced into a position of trust here, and that now we need to accept what they are putting out there. What do we do with that?
The CIA obviously has a long history of some really diabolical things that it does. Whether it's regime change or MK Ultra, mind control, or any number of other things that are just horrible rendition programs. That's what the CIA has done, and the CIA is not this. Of course, the corporate media now is portraying the CIA as these angels, which they're anything but. Having said that, it's a truism, and people say this all the time, that there are always good people in all of these organizations. It's really true. People aren't themselves evil all the time when they work for these. The organizations do terrible things. I don't know the other individuals personally, but I do know Puthoff personally, and I absolutely believe he's a good guy. I don't believe he's on the bad side, and no one's going to convince me otherwise. I've had too many meaningful conversations with him to think otherwise.
But in this case, though, where we're dealing with...
what I think is happening is that these people are allowed to give out the information that they're giving. And the question that we want to ask is, why are they allowed now to do it?
And that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. Should we allow some time to pass here before we go into, a trust?
Well, it has nothing to do with trust. The thing is, if they're releasing information, then we can have the opportunity to look at that information. So if they're making statements, if you have a guy like Puthoff who's saying the UAP phenomenon is so significant that we had contracts for 38 high-level speculative papers on UFO tech, that is significant. That's a significant admission that we can then work with and then move on. It has nothing to do with trust.
Oh, I think it does. And let me tell you why.
Well, tell me why, please.
Where is trust? Okay. It's this simple. The CIA comes knocking on your door at your home, right there, the Dolan house. It's not because they want to be friends and take you out to dinner. There is a serious issue going on here, and it's not on the good side. And so
that's
here,
a totally generic statement.
It is and look, if the CIA is involved in your life, then you got some issues. And what I am trying to say, and it's not good issues, but what I am trying to say here is this. Now when we're dealing with the UFO subject, and suddenly the CIA and members of the CIA, ex-CIA, are suddenly in this community being our friends, we need to take a step back and not embrace.
Who said anything about friends? Certainly not me. It has nothing to do with motivations. Everyone's got motivations.
I'm saying
everyone's got motivations, and they're not all your motivations or my motivations, but that's irrelevant. What matters is, what is the information that they are providing us at this time, and is it actionable? Can it be fact checked? Can it be investigated? And if it's new information, then hell, let's look at that information. And as I'm seeing it anyway, from where I'm sitting, this is new information, and it's worth knowing. So I consider it significant. Does he have his own motivations? Does he want to make $1 trillion on leading edge technology? Hell if I know. Maybe. So?
No, yeah. That's
what I care about is what is the information we're getting.
Yeah, that's not. Right? I'm not even going down that road.
People are getting very worked up over whatever motivations they divine are happening here, and that's fine. You want to know motivations, but I'm going to suggest that we're at a point in our conversation. It's not just about this; it's about everything, where motivations are seen as more important than the actual information. And that's a bad place to be in.
Right.
You got to remind yourself what actually matters. What matters is the data. What matters is the information. We think these are all good guys? Of course not. I don't think that. I don't care. What I'm caring about is, what are they telling us that we can learn? And the answer, I think, at least in this case, is a lot. And Puthoff in particular is someone worth listening to as carefully as you can listen. He's worth the attention.
Yeah, I'm hoping that and this is my take, is that we need to allow some time to pass here before we get too friendly and accepting. I mean, 2 years from now, we can look back and go,
accepting of what, though? Like, I'm just going to ask you, what do you mean? Like, accepting that these 38 papers exist?
Yeah, why exactly? Why leak this? Why release this? Why release any of this information over the last year? Why do any of that? Why bring Luis Elizondo forward? Why do any of this so sudden? And that's justice.
Is it possible? Here's one scenario. Is it possible that there are people in the intelligence community who have had their own experiences, who personally believe that the subject is worthy of public discourse, and who are using whatever levers that they have, limited though they are, to move this issue forward? Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility.
Yeah,
it is.
So maybe that's a reasonable assumption to work off of. And if someone can disprove that possibility, fine. If they've got a multi-billion-dollar, Austin Powers control the world type of agenda, then fine, we can figure out what that is. But for me, what I would say is, motivations are important. You want to know them, but let's not lose sight over the information that is being released, whether they are the Tic Tac video or the other videos that people love to argue about. Are they legit? Are they not legit? Or the data that they're putting out, the studies that were, George Knapp, I think it was earlier in the year in 2018, got an in-depth report. This is clearly out of Bigelow's, the subcontractor for the Tic Tac, and they're talking about the AAV was not something that belongs to the U.S. or any other nation, so advanced it rendered our capabilities ineffective, obsolete. Like, these statements are now coming out. So those are important statements. Like, in other words, what we're getting is a kind of drip of confirmation of this phenomenon. And it's happening right before our eyes. And I'm just saying, let us not lose sight of this significant development in our history. Yeah, it's the CIA. We all know that. We all know that we can't trust everything that they do. But the fact is, these statements are coming out about these AAVs, as they're calling them, anomalous aerial vehicles, being unlike anything that we have. Which, by the way, behind the scenes, quietly, these people have been talking about for years and decades. Like, everyone knows this. Everyone knows that they've been confronting a phenomenon that they can't duplicate. And so now we're getting statements very much along these lines that are saying this, except now that they're coming out in the public. So this is a significant thing. It's an important development. And this is why I think the scientific studies, and by the way, it's not just Puthoff talking about this. There's a great YouTube video by Dr. Jack Sarfati just from a month or so ago, where he is talking about the physics of the Tic Tac UFO. And I highly recommend it to people who are not professional physicists. He does a very, very fine job of explaining the physics of how these objects possibly work. And he also is talking about the metamaterials and how they serve essentially as a kind of a waveguide to, as he calls it, soften the space-time boundary around the capsule, around the object. It's just fascinating. So, in other words, the scientific conversations are moving forward on this. And that's what we got to keep our eyes on. The information is coming out and the science is being discussed in a sophisticated way.
If I sat down with Mellon or Justice or Elizondo or Hal, right, or Kit Green or Semivan, if I sat down with all of them sitting in front of me, I would make the same general statement to all of them. Either either you know that this is off-world, you know this as a fact, or you don't. But don't run down the middle and say, if we need to investigate, we need to do.
This is all public consumption. I'm certain.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm not officially speaking for anyone, but I'm just going to say they know. Of course they know. Of course they know. They know it's real. Someone's here that's not supposed to be here. That's not part of our civilization. Yeah, of course they have to know that. And in fact, if you really go into Puthoff's speech last summer, he's basically saying that. He's saying that, all but saying it's extraterrestrial. Just read the statement carefully. Steve Bassett put out a very nice synopsis, and I guess you could say translation or transliteration of Puthoff's speech. So it's available for people to read on Paradigm Research, Bassett's website. And it's very, very straightforward. Like, these people clearly believe that it's extraterrestrial, but they're also in a position. It's like Reed. He's in a position where he's got to say, like, well, we don't really know what it is. They have to know what it is. This phenomenon has been in their face for 70 plus years now. So, but they're also dealing with a corporate media establishment that's, you don't just go say this from the rooftop saying, yeah, it's real. They're here, people. Robert Bigelow says that, and a few other people say that, but most of these guys, they're not going to say that explicitly. So they play it safe. They play the game with the media, with the public, and that's how it works.
Yeah. I don't understand it. When we look at, well, I understand the POTUS or world, state, leaders. I understand their position on it. I wish that their position was different. But if I, as somebody that is not running a country, if I'm somebody else, if I'm a Mellon or if I am an Elizondo or a Justice, if I'm any of these and I have the definitive proof, I'm the martyr. What's going to?
None of those guys want to be martyrs. Now, I had a conversation once with someone. This wasn't with Puthoff; it was someone else, but who had classified background, and just said to me, I know for a fact this is real, and I was briefed, and I have this such and such information about the reality of this phenomenon and bodies and so forth, and what was very obvious was they were not in a position where they felt they could talk about it. He said, look, if I go to the New York Times, right, and talk about this, A, are they going to publish it? B, if they do, it'll be traced right back to me, and I lose every clearance I ever had, and I lose my career and my profession.
So what?
And aside from maybe going to prison.
So what?
Perhaps that information. Well, not everyone wants to be a martyr.
Yeah, but you would be the most famous person ever for the rest of the time of the universe. And that's the truth.
You'd have to be able to prove it.
Well, okay, so
these are difficult things. Like, it's not the easiest position to be in.
Okay, Dolan, you go to Right Pat. You get taken down 8 floors below, and you walk in and you look at the saucer, and then they walk by and they go, check it out. Here's some uniforms. That's an ET over there in the tank. Check this out. Here's their badges. Here's this. Here's that. And you turn around and you slip into your pocket the evidence, right? And you get out and you're done. You're a free man. You get off of the base. Do you go public?
I would yes, I would. If I felt that the evidence I acquired would be sufficient to convince the world.
Yeah, it's a laser gun. You know what I mean? But
I mean, first of all, that's such a fantasy situation. Like, that would never happen.
But if it did, I'm saying
that's not something that's realistic or even possible.
Would you go public? Do you have the press conference? Of course you do.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the difference between any of these other cats? There's nothing. I mean, what?
I can't get inside their head. I can't speak for them. I don't know.
What?
And I don't know most of them, so I wouldn't really be able to tell you.
At that point,
everyone's got their motivations. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about their retirement. Who the hell knows? They've got they don't want to get into trouble, whatever it is. Puthoff said in his lecture, he says, look, I'm able to talk about this element of it because I can finally talk about the details and not go to jail. Like, that's actually literally what he said. This was the first chance he had to appear before the public and talk about the details of the program and not go to jail.
Can you imagine their kids? You would be the most rockin' dude in school. Your dad exposed UFOs to us. You would be, can you imagine the senior prom?
Well, my kids, when they were teenagers, certainly didn't get any benefit from having their dad as a UFO researcher, except some of their friends thought it was cool. I will just say that. But
my daughters have no benefit from my career for sure. I wanted to talk about. Do you want to hang on and talk about Project Blue Book? You want to keep going?
It's a little late here on the East Coast, but Tracy's looking at me. We're gonna stay up and do a little longer.
Yeah, Tracy, go make him a shot of espresso. Let's do this the right way. Yeah, I do want to talk about that, and the reason.
You talking about the Blue Book series on History Channel?
Yeah, and the reason why I want to go into it in depth is, I think that the liberties that the writers are taking on the show and the producers on the show, which is fine, but they are seriously tarnishing Alan Hynek's life and legacy. And I don't dig that part of it. And
yeah, well, no, I'm with you. I don't agree with all of the liberties that have been taken. We're at a point where I understand how these Hollywood people operate. We've met enough of them. Like they're not UFO people. Although the creator is I spoke with him. He's a great guy. He's really into the UFO phenomenon for real. But the problem is when these projects get into Hollywood, like everyone else takes over, and they think that they have the right idea and let's dramatize it. And it's one thing to change certain peripheral things to fit Alan Hynek into all these different stories that he didn't really appear in real life. But yeah, there are a lot of liberties, and honestly, we're at a point with the UFO subject where people don't need the fictionalization. The real stories of these cases are absolutely fascinating. Like you could do a genuine dramatization of the true story with minimal damage and do real justice to it, because the real stories are fascinating. I mean, they're not all as dramatic as portrayed in the series, and that's the problem. Like these guys want it ultra dramatic, but the fact is, I think most people now want to know, is this true? Is that true? And when it isn't true, when they find it's not true, I think it takes a lot of the enjoyment out of the experience. It might have been different in the 1960s, but this is where we're at now. I think people are sophisticated enough with UFOs, like they want to know these cases are accurately portrayed, and generally speaking, there are significant liberties that are taken with them.
Yeah, and that's where I want to go. When we come back after the break, let's not lose sight of History Channel's got a reputation. It's called History Channel for a reason. And when they start off a show about somebody's personal life, like Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and they started off, this is based on actual case files. This is based on you need to be very careful about how you present that, because somebody that doesn't know anything about UFOs, like my daughters, and they go and they watch this, they're coming at me. Did you know that this doctor was, he saw ETs in a tank and it's just like, wait a minute here.
Yeah, he's basically Fox Mulder in the 50s.
Yes. And
that's really what they did. I asked him because, let's face it, I look a little bit like the character in that, and I think that's kind of cool. So I opted. I want them to let me do the stunts. So when it comes time to duke out a Russian spy, put me in there. Let me take out the Russian spy.
And plus you smoke a pipe, so you could just walk right on the set. Let's take a break right here. Richard Dolan is our guest. This is Fade to Black. We're going to continue our discussion on Project Blue Book right after this short break on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Of course, you can follow me at JChurch Radio on Twitter. You can follow Richard at Rich Dolan on Twitter. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
And you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Doing a little overtime with Richard Dolan. His wife, Tracy, just went and made him a single shot of espresso to make sure that he gets through the show tonight. And, Richard, I didn't ask you. You were expecting this at the top of the show, but what was the last piece of music that you listened to today?
Yeah, it's funny. Just before I went on, I was asking Tracy, like, what the hell did I listen to? I didn't hear any music today.
What?
None. But yesterday, we were driving, and we heard Led Zeppelin.
Which one?
Dear Maker.
Oh, Dire Maker.
Dire Maker, Dear Maker. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah, Dire Maker.
I've listened to it for like 45 years. Whatever. But it was on the radio. And that's a good song. That's like a really great Zeppelin song.
Did you crank it?
I always crank the Zepp.
Oh man, nothing better.
Look, I like I'm a 70s guy, so like I love Zeppelin, but I like the disco. That's where you and I part ways.
No, I love disco. Are you kidding me? Oh man, that's my
like
childhood.
All just like the hair bands and
that's
glam rock and the tight spandex. I thought that was you.
Oh, that was me later. But in the 70s, look, this is my childhood. When I was 14, 15, 16 years old, was down in Panama at the Canal Zone, and each Army base, and including, I think, the DOD centers too as well, all had teen clubs, right? They were called teen clubs. Oh, and imagine a government-sanctioned teen club, right, where you could go in and...
Very wholesome, I'm sure.
You know what? Pool tables, ping pong tables, and guitars and amps.
I'm all over about that.
Right? And once a week, once a month, each one of those teen clubs had a dance. And, man, it was all about the Bee Gees, because then Saturday Night Fever was the number one. That was it. It was all about disco. That's so right. I had this silk shirt.
Barry Gibb rocked the falsetto. Let's just put it right out there. He did it. No one else could do the falsetto.
Nobody did. And with and fine set of teeth. Fine set of teeth, that Barry Gibb. Okay, back to... I could talk disco all night.
By the way, I was just busting on you. I don't know that you did the bright blue spandex. I just suspect you did.
Yeah, I did. Capizios. Oh, man. Capizios and spandex. What a horrible thought. But anyway, Capizios were dancing shoes, but that was the cool thing here on the Sunset Strip in the 80s.
I missed that memo.
Oh, man. I've got pictures. Okay, so... Anyway, are we getting into, though, a dangerous zone where we are presenting Project Blue Book and shows like this as historical fact? Like this is a historical record.
I mean, absolutely. These shows, they're primarily entertainment, and people can't lose sight of it. You know, I've been pretty nice about it. Look, and I'll just say they called me. So I did a full day of interviews with the Project Blue Book team. I don't know if I even told you this.
No, but you did not.
If you go to the History Channel website, you'll find Jacques Vallée, you'll find me, and you'll find the Hynek sons, Paul and Joel Hynek, with sit-down interviews on the various cases portrayed in the Project Blue Book series. And so it's actually, I did my best, honestly. What was the real truth of the Childs Whitted 1948 encounter in the air with Eastern Airlines? And, you know, they had their own dramatization of it with Alan Hynek on the plane. Which
on the plane.
But there's a great story there. And so what I did is I sat down with them and I talked about those cases as best I could. And those snippets, I guess I should say, are on the History Channel website. So to that limited extent, I have a connection to that project, although obviously I had nothing to do with any of the script or anything to do with that. But, you know, I understand. I mean, on the one hand, I understand where these guys are coming from, but it's definitely misguided to, at this point in the game, with all that's out there on the UFO phenomenon, to change the nature of the history that much, to change Alan Hynek's career or his wife, for that matter, Mimi.
Right.
To bring in the Russian spies the way that they've done.
Yep.
It's not that there wasn't Russian espionage. Yeah, there was Russian espionage. Yes, but not with Hynek in this manner. No, clearly not. One of the Blue Book character that they pair Hynek with in the series is kind of a little bit modeled on Ed Ruppelt, but I think much more modeled on a later Blue Book head named Lawrence Tacker. And if you look into the history of this, Tacker ran Blue Book in around 1960 and was a hardcore debunker. I mean, almost like a cartoonish debunker of UFOs. So they kind of mix and match different people historically, and I get that. But the changes that they made to the cases are really quite obvious to people who study the phenomenon, and I guess it's unfortunate.
The other aspects of it, I would have thought if they would have just stayed tried and true because his life was as fascinating as it could be. If they just stuck with what really went on, then I think that's just as fast. There's no reason to fictionalize all of these events, like the Men in Black.
Well, if you're going to make it about Allen Hynek, you'd have to drop most of the cases that they cover. So there's that.
There's that.
Hynek wasn't really involved in most of those investigations. Some of them he was, but most not really, or at least tangentially he was. Now, you could have done a series on Edward Ruppelt. That's an interesting one. But again, that's a different kind of a story. You could do a series on the history of Project Blue Book, and you'd have different characters, and that's a different kind of a story. Like the way that they like to do this is that you create a hero. So they created Hynek as the hero in this case. And so by doing that, you create a structure. You then have to change. You got to change a lot of the historical things, and that's where it falls. That's where it's very easy. I mean, criticizing the failings of that show is like shooting fish in a barrel, and everyone's happy to do it. For me, I just feel like if I go, Tracy and I watched it. We were sent screeners of it, so we were able to see most of the shows. And again, if you look at it as fiction or dramatization, and you just let it go, you could say, all right, fine, it's fun. It's like the X-Files in the 1950s. But the truth really requires, additional digging. Like the shows change so much.
But what about the bigger picture here? And the release of Project Blue Book, all of the action that we had last year with ATIP and the New York Times, right. All of these revelations going through the mainstream media on the UFO subject, and of course the other UFO programming that is all over television right now. Is this part of a bigger agenda where all of this is being pushed onto the world stage?
I think what we're seeing is a combination of forces at work. So it's not just one thing. It's not just like, oh, well, the deep state is now deciding to leak out a little bit of controlled disclosure. No, right. That's so simplistic. So what's happening is you've got forces at work. You have an elite control group that's existed for a long, long, long time, a whole human lifetime. But the problem is we're in a society that has gone through dramatic changes over the past several generations, and that is an undeniable fact. We have the web. The web didn't exist more than 20, 25 years ago. It exists now. And not only the web, but we're in web version 2.0, which is social media. And we're going to be moving to 3.0, which will be 5G, total surveillance, Internet of Things. But right now, the version of the web that we have is advanced enough where people are talking to each other. And guess what? The reality of the UFO phenomenon from the beginning of the internet in the 1980s, UFOs were the first significant non-techie subject that helped open up the internet. Why? Guess why? Because it's a real phenomenon and people experience it worldwide and they want to know about it. And so what's happening is that as our ability to talk about this subject continues to grow and evolve, that is pushing this subject into the forefront. And so what you're seeing is a situation where the powers that be, if we want to call them that, have to react in one way or another, and they react in various ways. So they control the media, so they'll take the corporate media and they'll put out their spin of the UFO phenomenon, and they've been doing that for years. All right. You notice with all of the versions of the UFO phenomenon, until the X-Files really, there were like no portrayals of gray aliens. They were just, and even now with the movies, like none of the Hollywood movies portray gray aliens. They're all like these wacko fantasy type creatures that no one's ever seen.
Right.
But so there's a definite manipulation going on. But the fact is, it's simply a back and forth pushing that we're seeing. It's the public that's pushing this forward, and the establishment is reacting. And they are reacting by seeking to control for as long as possible. Like if they can control this for 100 more years, they will control it for 100 more years. You mark my words. If all they have is 5 years, then they'll take the 5. The point is they're trying to delay this as long as possible because the ramifications of a true disclosure of the genuine UFO phenomenon is way too revolutionary. It's way too dramatic. But the fact is they can't stop it. That's the whole thing. Like, because there's too many moving parts. There are too many different opinions. There are too many people with different amounts of knowledge on this. So it's happening. But, you know, and everyone's got their own motivations for putting their information out there, of course. But it is happening nevertheless. It's messy, and it could take a long time, and it might not happen until after I'm dead. But it will happen. It will happen, and when it will happen, how it will happen is all up for grabs right now, but it will happen.
One of the fascinating parts of my research as I've plugged along through this has been outside of our community, completely outside. I've reached out and found a whole nother, much larger than the UFO community, much way bigger. And I'm talking about the researchers that go into science fiction, into the gaming community, and the money that is involved there, and the amount of gamers and science fiction readers out there. Like, you know, think about the size of Comic-Con versus the size of Contact in the Desert. It's two different things. Yeah. And it is so large, but for each game that is involved, video game with ET and civilizations and taking over planets, and their scientific research going into this, how interstellar travel happens, trading, interstellar warfare, colonization, all of this, it is unbelievable how much research goes into this outside of our community. And you go into this and you start looking. Well, I'm talking about scientists and physicists that are involved, that are on the payrolls to get the ideas of how a civilization is supported, how do they feed themselves, how do they travel, how do they occupy a planet, the weapons that they would use, the ideas behind an invasion or not, or an occupation or not.
You're getting me intrigued.
Yes,
I feel like I've been missing out. I should get
I'm telling you,
with this.
It is, and you get outside of our community, and then you start to realize it's not just us, Richard. Mm-hmm. It's not. The entire planet is fascinated with this. You should go check out and have Tracy write this down. Go check out Isaac Arthur, ISAAC Arthur, and go and start listening to his videos and his YouTube channel. And he is somebody that not only works in the science fiction and the gaming community, but he's also graduated with a physics degree.
So he just wrote his name down. The thing is, the UFO phenomenon has been transforming our culture. Like this, what you're describing wouldn't have been possible if there was no UFO phenomenon. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe this. Mm-hmm. I think what's happened is that the arrival of a widespread UFO phenomenon in our culture, starting really in the 1940s, although the phenomenon's earlier than that, but we became aware of it as a culture openly in the 40s, has transformed our culture in really important ways. So, and this, what you're describing is one aspect of it. And this is why I'm saying when we're talking about, you know, shows like the Blue Book show, they are, in a sense, there are a lot of things going in there. So on the one hand, it's a pure money-making venture, corporate people who have a little bit of an interest in UFOs want to make a show and make some money off of it. There's also, let's never forget, there's a lot of control going on in these networks. They are, at the highest levels, they are connected and in bed with the intelligence community. And they are. And, you know, just remember the name Chase Brandon. A couple of years ago.
I forgot about him, yes.
Being the CIA's liaison in Hollywood.
That's right.
Right. So this is a real thing. And his job was to consult with Hollywood productions and make sure that they just said the right things about the CIA and about other things that were important. And that's how it was, and that's how it is. And so there's definitely a control element going on, and that has to do with our entire media. You know, we started off this conversation an hour and a half ago where we talked about news media and how controlled it is. There was an Operation Mockingbird that went for years, and it's exists more deep and profound than ever before, but that was a CIA manipulation of American mainstream media. And it's a matter of historical fact. And the control over media by our intelligence community and our financial and military community is greater now than it was even 50 years ago. So right, all of this has to be looked at with a jaded eye by ordinary citizens. All of it. But let's just not disempower ourselves in the process. The fact is that these little disclosures are happening because they're being forced out, because this isn't the world of the 1980s anymore. Like what's happening with revelations by people like Hal Puthoff is that it's possible now. It would never have been possible 30 years ago. It's possible now because there's been too much pushing up from below to allow for certain things now to be released. That's how it's working. It's a there's multiple forces at work here. And one of those forces is the genuine interest of the people.
You bring up Project Mockingbird, and when the difficulty of Mockingbird back in the day, where you had printed media and you had 3 channels, right? And so you had to get a physical body on the payroll at a newspaper in Wichita or whatever. And they had hundreds of them across the United States on the payroll. That's fact. That's historical record.
And you control the wire services, which were as close to the internet of the day, and that would disseminate the news. So you control the wire service. You control the majors. Certainly New York Times was always under control that way. Washington Post and the others,
And so today, how much easier is it for the CIA to have a Project Mockingbird when all you have to do, you don't have to have a physical, all you have to do is create a website. All you've got to do is create a Twitter account. All you have to do, create a YouTube channel, start putting some content out there. And you can do it all from one centralized office, right, in Langley, where you don't have physical bodies on a payroll across the United States.
Yeah, they're called sock puppets. It's a real thing. And
it's a real thing.
The Department's they create sock puppets, fake personas. Apparently we may be seeing that in our own field, but we'll get to that another time. But this is something that the intelligence community has been very, very sophisticated with. And by the way, everyone likes to talk about the Russian bots, and I'm sure there are Russian bots, but man, they got nothing on the U.S. bots, that's for sure. But the point is, Mockingbird is an easier program to implement now than ever before. You're exactly right. Media consolidation. I mean, back in the 50s, there were 50 or 100 of the leading media organizations controlled 80, 90% of all media. Now that number's 6.
Right.
So if you have relationships with those top media organizations, which are all segmented into their various markets and so forth, well, you got it made, and that's exactly the way it is. There is a deceased German journalist named Dr. Udo Ulfkotter, who just died a year and a half ago, I think, and he talked openly about how in European journalism, the CIA controlled everything. They would write the articles and then give the byline to a particular journalist. But he's on YouTube. You can find a lot of his statements. There's a lot of American journalists who talked about it. Amber Lyon, formerly of CNN, talked about how literally CNN created fake news back during the Arab Spring of 2011. And there's lots of other brave people who've talked very, very explicitly about the manipulation of Western media by U.S. corporate and intelligence community interests. And so circling back to the UFO phenomenon, of course we have to expect the exact same thing. The UFO, in fact, very much so, because UFOs are important. They have been of national security importance since the beginning. And so the need to control it is paramount. But the problem is, and again, people need to understand, the secret keepers don't have all of the power. They have a lot of the power. And they have the power to manipulate. They have the power to psych us out with all kinds of head fakes. Yes, they do it. But the fact is, if it had not been for the web, it had not been for the internet and social media, we would be in a very different place, a much worse place, vis-a-vis any kind of hopeful disclosure. Now, and what do we see? We see the elite groups of the world trying to regain control over the web through deplatforming, public shaming, and surveillance, and all of those evil things that they're trying to do. So they understand full well that if it is possible to delay genuine disclosure, they'll do it forever. And I don't think it will be forever, but it could be for a while. It may not be for a while. But that's the dynamic.
Thank you so much,
Richard.
Richard.
Are they just giving us a little drip, drip, drip? Are they being forced to do it by public pressure from below?
Thank you so much, Richard. What a great conversation tonight. And when's the new book coming out? Come on.
I have no idea.
Oh, man.
I work every day, and there's never enough hours in any day.
And is it going to come out?
At the end of every day, I think back and I'm like, what did I do? Did I accomplish anything? And then I realized, oh yeah, I did this and this and this and this, but I didn't do like 12 other things that I wanted to do.
So 2020, we can look forward to 2020.
You can look forward to things in 2019. I've got writing projects in the works,
Okay.
and I would like that false flag book to be done in 2019. It's possible.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon, Richard, and lots more to discuss, everybody. You just be patient. And Richard and I are making that commitment to you right now, like we did earlier in this show. When we're ready, we'll talk. And Richard, behave. Now go get some sleep. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Give my best to Tracy.
You will do. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you so much. Richard Bleepin Dolan. Follow Richard right now on Twitter at Rich Dolan. That's what you want to do. He's got his radio show, The Richard Dolan Show, on KGRA The Planet. And he, if you go and follow his Twitter account, he is broadcasting live on YouTube and doing live streams. Seems like every day. He's got a lot to say. So go and do that now. And the easiest way to find out when he is doing all of that stuff is on his Twitter feed at Rich Dolan. Okay, now a couple of things really quick. Programming notes. Tomorrow night is David Icke. That's going to be pretty out of control. It always is. And then on Wednesday night, for the first time here on Fade to Black, it is the Q Army. We've got In the Matrix and Shady Groove here. I know you've got questions. I've got questions. We're going to do all of that on Wednesday night. Thursday is our 1,000th show. 1,000 we got here. I don't know how we did, but we made it. 1,000 shows, and it falls on a Fader night on Thursday night. And then we head down to the Conscious Life Expo at the LAX Hilton. We'll see everybody down there for that. And until then, I'll see everybody here tomorrow night with Mr. David Icke. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Great conversation tonight with Richard. Again, follow Richard on Twitter at Rich Dolan. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camurian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2019 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night, David Icke right here on Fade to Black. I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.